Hello, everyone. This is Lori Nelson. I'm the Director of Development at Barron Heights, and we welcome all of our Barron Heights community members to our very first COVID Care Zoom video. We're doing some different kinds of programming at Barron Heights, you may have noticed since the pandemic started, and we're trying to provide more helpful resources and guides for all of us, really, but families in particular to cope with the COVID that we've been dealing with. It's hard to imagine, but we've been in this situation for almost a year now. It has dramatically changed all of our lives, and it's truly become a kind of new normal. But we are doing, or I am going to be doing 3 different COVID care series that will be dealing with how we can manage with our physical needs, our spiritual needs, and our emotional and psychological needs. So I am delighted to be able to introduce you all today to Lisa Murphy. Lisa is a registered dietitian. She's been working in this field for 25 years, and she is going to give us all kinds of helpful tips and resources for how we can best feed and nourish our families during this very trying time. So Lisa, hello to you. It's so nice to meet you.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Lori. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with the Barron Heights community.
Well, we love having you. So, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and give us, some sort of context for the background sort of work that you do in this kind of field.
All right. As you said, I'm a registered dietitian. My specialty, what I love to do the most is speak about weight management. Love to talk to groups, whether it's adults, kids. But my primary position right now is I work for Anthem Health Insurance and do telephonic nutrition counseling. So I've had the opportunity during the pandemic to talk to a lot of people who, are struggling with their nutrition, during this time. So have learned a lot from them and, how people are dealing with it and the challenges that they're facing. So.
Well, Anthem is my insurance company, so I'm so glad they're providing this kind of guidance for their membership. Well, let's jump right into things. Now, obviously, we are dealing with a lot of challenges, but they are certainly most manifested in our family lives at home and in our kitchens and dining room tables. Can you talk about what these challenges are that you have seen, and maybe we can kind of like identify what's going on altogether?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of clients tell me that, weight gain. I think that was a term that came on pretty quick was, the COVID-19 pounds that, people gained. Although I've unfortunately seen a lot more than 19 pounds, for some people. Just the stress of it all, is one of the things. That has caused the weight gain and the emotional eating, but also just the change in routine. I've talked to a lot of people who, are struggling with, working at home, having kids that, in school and, in the Barron Heights community, even more challenges with, the school and the therapies and the health issues that you may be facing. I'm sure that stress is even greater in this community. So just the routines and how that can change your eating. Seen a lot of people, have changed their meal patterns or also exercising less, just moving more or moving less, kind of stuck to a desk or feel like they can't get up and leave. And just the activity that we take for granted of, getting up and walking to your car and walking into work and your work building and things like that. So those are some of the issues that we've, kind of seen that has brought on the weight gain. But then also just, as this has gone on, as we're cooking at home more, pandemic meal fatigue, people are just getting, what else can I cook? I'm tired of cooking every night and coming up with a meal plan and meeting everyone's needs. So those are the 2 big challenges that I've seen.
Well, in all this, this kind of difficult time, is there any positive advantage or benefit that you see?
Yes, believe it or not, there are. We tend to always talk negative when we're talking about COVID, but there have been some positive things. I've worked with several people who have taken this opportunity to really reflect on their life and taking the time that they have, more time at home and less commuting, less social activities, less eating out, not the tempting food at work, and for some people, more time to exercise and to meal plan. So they've taken that opportunity to really make some changes in their health, learning how to meal plan and meal prep, just making healthier choices and seeing a lot of, weight loss or just, healthier eating habits. So, like I said, we tend to focus on the negative with COVID, but you can use this as an opportunity to get healthier.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know I've enjoyed walking because I can't go to the gym anymore, but now I really know my neighborhood.
Yeah.
That's been an unexpected advantage for me, so I can attest to that.
Yeah.
Well, in any event, since we all really know we probably would like to get healthier, how can we get started on that path?
Well, I think, one thing is just realizing that, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And I think in our society, when it comes to diet and nutrition, we tend to think of, I've got to be perfect and eat good foods or bad foods, and not get in that kind of in between and looking at patterns. It's really our lifestyle patterns that create who we are and how healthy we are, not just one food, one meal, one exercise, one supplement. None of that's going to cure anything, but it's our patterns that we need to look at. So I really encourage people to kind of change their mindset and to realize that, good nutrition doesn't have to be restrictive or overwhelming, but that you can make small goals and make small changes, and that every bite, every meal plan, it does make a difference. So one good place to start, I think, is just to, assess yourself, ask yourself some questions over the last few months, if you have gained weight, or if you feel like, oh, I'm not eating fruits and vegetables anymore, or, my kids are, sluggish, and, looking at, what are the changes, are you skipping breakfast now? Are you eating more snacks? Are you watching TV and you associate that with eating snacks? Are you staying up later, so you're snacking until bedtime and then not eating breakfast? A good plan always starts with figuring out what is going on in your life right now and what you might want to change. And that's the key, is wanting to change. So assessing yourself is the first step, and figuring out what you want to do. And then if I can share my screen here and show you one of the tools that I work with a lot to help people get started, and it's called the My Plate. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen here, and hopefully this will work.
World.
Okay. All right, so hopefully you can see the My Plate here.
I do.
Okay, great. So this is a tool that I use a lot, because it's a really nice tool to help you to make sure that you're getting the nutrients that you need, but it also gives you the balance of healthy carbohydrates that you need for energy, but then that protein to make that energy last longer. And the nice thing about this is that you can use this wherever you are, whether you're at home, or if you do get an opportunity to eat out, or heaven forbid, if we get back to potluck someday, wouldn't that be nice? But where you can still envision this plate and think about where the food groups go on that plate. So if we can just kind of start with one side, if you draw, think about it, you've drawn a line down the middle of it, you fill half of your plate with vegetables and fruits. So this is two categories where the American public does not eat enough. about 80% of us don't eat the fruit that we need, and 90% of us don't eat the vegetables that we need. So if we could just make that change, that would be a huge health benefit for us, because we get healthy carbohydrates, nutrients, fiber, lots of benefits there. And when we find ourselves focusing on eating more fruits and vegetables, then that displaces some of those unhealthy things that we tend to eat, whether that's chips, French fries, sweets, large servings of meats, things like that.
How does eating more vegetables and fruit, how does that affect our bodies? What does it give us in terms of healthiness or healthfulness?
Well, mainly nutrients, lots of vitamins and minerals, and then fiber, which is really good to help lower cholesterol, good for your digestive system, so many things like that. And fruits and vegetables are low in calories. So that's a big tip in, helping you to, in weight loss efforts, just by upping those fruits and veggies. And, here in COVID, time too, that is one thing that we think about is our immune system. And when you don't eat well, your immune system is affected. So you're going to get a lot of those immune boosting nutrients in your fruits and vegetables, like beta carotene, vitamin C, things like that, that are going to help.
Yes. Are there other nutrients that we should all be increasing in terms of preventing COVID from happening? Sort of a laundry list?
Well, it would be wonderful if we could, eat something to prevent COVID, but there is, no evidence-based medicine on that. So the best thing to do is just eat that well-rounded diet. And that's what, if you use the My Plate method, that can help you to do that. So if you are getting those fruits and veggies in, then that's going to help you to up your your vitamin A, your vitamin C. There's some research out there on vitamin D that may, they're not saying that it will help prevent COVID, but it may help symptoms to be less severe. So you're going to get that in your dairy. So there on the side of your plate, you're going to get vitamin D in all your milk, your yogurt, and your cheese. Are your best sources. You do get it in a little bit in salmon and eggs and things like that too. And then protein on 1/4 of your plate, that's also an immune supporting nutrient. And it also helps to make the carbohydrates in your food kind of last longer. So if you're filling up half your plate with veggies and fruits and then 1/4 in grains, those are all carbohydrate foods, which your body needs for energy. But if you leave off that protein, then you're going to be hungrier faster. Okay. So you can kind of think about, the gas mileage on a car. You want to get the best gas mileage that you can. So if you're just eating, toast and jelly for breakfast or a Pop-Tart or just vegetables for lunch, then you're going to be hungry all the time. And this is something that actually I used to do back in the 90s when low-fat diet was really popular. And there's good things about a low-fat diet, but unfortunately we, would eliminate some protein because of that. So, I would eat, cereal and milk for breakfast or all veggies for lunch. And I wondered why I wanted candy bars 2 hours later, because when you just eat carbohydrate, your blood sugar goes up pretty quickly, but then it comes down pretty quickly. So that protein kind of gives you a slower rise and then a slower fall. So you stay energized longer when you have that 1/4 of your plate in protein.
And you eat along together, protein and grains?
Is there protein in what?
Is it better to eat them together, grains and proteins, or to make them separate meals, or?
You want to have them all together. So the fruits, the veggies, the grains, and the protein and the dairy. That's going to give you that balance that you need. So grains, depending on the type of grain, might have a little bit of protein. There's some that are higher in others, like quinoa would be an example. But most grains are going to have like 3 grams of protein or less. Where in high protein foods like your meats, you're going to get at least 7 grams per ounce. And of course, nobody eats just 1 ounce of meat, right? The typical serving size is, or recommended, is like 3 ounces, 3 to 4 ounces. So you're going to, shoot for about 20 grams of protein at each meal to help give you that balance that you need. But you'll get protein besides meat. You get it from eggs and cheese, nuts, nut butters like peanut butter and almond butter, seeds, soy foods. Beans are an excellent source of protein as well.
And what is the situation about fat or oil or these days? I mean, you are told that it's so bad for you and to shy away from it, but everybody I know who does always has kind of brittly hair, or I'm not sure that they look as healthy as they could be.
Yeah, and you do need some fats, and you're going to get some naturally occurring in your protein foods. If you think about it, all your meats are going to have some fat in them, your cheese, your eggs, your dairy. So you're going to get some fat naturally from those foods, but then your added fats, like the oil that you roast your vegetables in, or the butter that you put on your toast, or things like that. You do need some of those oils every day. It's best to go for the plant-based ones like olive oil, canola, avocado, peanut oils are going to be more heart healthy. So it's all about balance. And of course, avocado, that's healthy fat too. That kind of is a fat and a fruit as well, but it has a good source of fat. So you want to make sure that you get those as well.
Okay. Well, has this pie chart changed over the years? Because it seems like our nutritional guidance has really kind of changed over the years. Is the latest findings?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I just actually attended a webinar last week on the updated dietary guidelines for Americans for 2020 to 2025. So, and they went back to the original dietary guidelines for Americans that was in 1984, I think. And believe it or not, it really hasn't changed that much. We would like to think that it has, but there's a lot of fad diets and they change a lot. And unfortunately, that's one of the biggest parts of my job, is undoing, trying to help people unlearn what they've learned from fad diets that are not sustainable and for, most of the time not healthy. So nutrition recommendations haven't changed a whole lot. Probably the biggest change would be the fat that we just talked about. Back in the 90s, it was, really low fat, and we didn't pay attention to the good fats, like the omega-3 fatty acids that are in salmon and other fatty fish, and walnuts and flaxseed, or the monounsaturated fat in the avocados. We just said, limit those foods, have as little as possible. So just in my practice over the years, that has been probably the biggest change. And then more of a trend to try to meet people where they are, instead of just giving people a list of eat this and don't eat that. Kind of like when we talked about just a few minutes ago, assess yourself. What do you need to change? So one of the things that I'll recommend for people is, write down your intake for 2 or 3 days, because a lot of times we don't know what we eat, and you might find out in 3 days that, oh, you didn't eat any fruit, or you didn't eat any dairy, or, your protein is covering half your plate instead of a quarter of your plate. And so then that can kind of give you a starting place, comparing your eating habits to this plate method, to figure out where you might want to start.
And as you were saying before, so much of this is about habit. And I've read somewhere that it takes 3 weeks to break a bad habit. So is habit identification also like a part of that whole change of plan?
Yeah, definitely. as you make your goals, if you want to make it a habit, then I really recommend writing down those goals, posting them somewhere, and having a plan on how you're going to do it. If you just, say, the top of my screen here, quick tips for healthier life. If you just want to say, okay, I want to eat healthier. Well, that's a very broad goal. You've got to break that down to, okay, I'm going to, eat a healthy breakfast every day this week, and I'm going to, use the plate method as a guide, or I'm going to only eat out once a week, or I'm going to walk 15 minutes on my lunch. It has to be, very specific and, small changes that you feel like would be realistic for you, instead of just saying, well, I'm going to eat healthier. Because if you don't have a plan, you're basically planning to fail.
Right. Okay. And how about we do a little subset on kids, because we adults, we rationally know that we should be eating healthier and better, but kids sometimes don't see the point of all that. So how do we manage kids eat healthier?
Yeah, definitely get those kids involved. And I'm going to share a different handout with you here. One of the things that I encourage people to do is meal plan.
Yes.
So, and you can do this with your kids. So this is just a worksheet that I created where you see the plate up there with the chef pointing to it, and make a list of, what are the, let me see if I can scroll down here. Yeah. Get your kids together and, let's plan some meals together. Using that plate method as a guide. So if we want to have Taco Tuesday or, pasta every Friday, well, how can we still do that, but still get some veggies with our pasta, or, still have some fruit on Taco Tuesday? And encourage the kids to get involved. So one website that I would encourage you to maybe try out is Choosemyplate.gov. And that has some really good kid-friendly resources and ideas of, how you can get your kids involved in not just the meal planning process, but, are they able to chop vegetables, or are they able to stir things? Are they able to get certain things started while you're still at work? Another thing, the more buy-in and planning that they have, the more they're likely to try something new. Cool. So you could have a challenge of, okay, this week you get to plan meal on Monday nights, and before we go to the store, you're going to research what's a different fruit or vegetable we're all going to try this week. A lot of kids really get into that, when they pick it. Another website that's really good for fruits and veggies, because that is one of those things that kids, tend to turn their noses up at, is fruitandveggies.org. And they have a great resource on every fruit and vegetable ever imagined. Some of them I haven't heard of, but it will show you, how to pick them out in the grocery store, and recipes that you can use for them. So just a lot of good resources that can help you there. And then just posting this meal planner. So when the whole family has the buy-in and you post this on a fridge or a refrigerator, kids know what the meal plan is. I mean, how many of us moms, how many times have you heard, "What's for dinner?" Yeah, that's my son's favorite line. "What's for dinner?" So when I do this, if I write out the meal plan for the week, he absolutely loves it. He did as a 12-year-old, and he still does as a 21-year-old. He likes knowing what he's going to have. Then that kind of, and when they have that planning too, it kind of gives them some more buy-in.
Oh. Oh, that's wonderful advice. Well, and as long as we're meal planning, there's a lot to be said for our pantries these days. Can you give us some guidance into how we ought to be regarding our pantry or stocking it? Or
Yeah, let me pull up some pantry ideas here for the
oh, look at this.
so this gives you just some ideas. You know, a lot of people like things where you don't have a recipe, but so these are some ideas that you can try here, things to keep in your cupboard. And of course, living in a pandemic, I'm sure we've all had experiences, especially back in March and April, where you went to buy some beans and rice and or eggs and milk, and it was all gone. Um, I think things are a lot better stocked now, but you still, you know, if you don't have enough food on hand for a couple of weeks, it is a good idea to plan ahead and make sure that you do have enough, you know, fruits, veggies, grains, you know, proteins, things that could last you 2 weeks if you needed to. So this just gives you a really good list of some things that you might want to keep in hand. One of my favorite things is that first one there in your cupboard is canned beans, because that beans are actually the you know, we all probably are keeping budget in mind right now as well. Beans are the cheapest source of protein that we can get, and not only is it high in protein, but it's high in fiber and a good source of carbohydrate. So whether you do canned beans or dried beans, you know, they're even cheaper. And that's one of those things, if you like to, you know, batch cook and freeze foods, then that can be a very cost-effective way to save some time and still have, you know, a healthy meal. And canned tuna or the packs of tuna, that's a really good, quick and easy lunch to throw on top of a salad. You know, if you're working from home, that's a good idea. Definitely brown rice. That's another one of those that's a good batch cook. That's something I do a lot is, you know, I'll make, you know, put in 4 cups of rice and your 8 cups of water. And it takes 30 minutes to cook. And then I've got a ton of rice that I can, you know, have one meal with that. And then I will freeze the rest of it based on what I know that my family is going to eat per meal. And then next week, then I'll pull out that, you know, 3 cups of rice to go with our stir fry. And I don't have to cook rice every time.
Yeah.
And that really does save a lot of time and is a lot cheaper than buying the, you know, Uncle Ben's or Rice-A-Roni or those packages that are going to cost you a lot more money and more sodium as well.
That makes so much sense. Well, you know, we were talking about the kids earlier. Is there any foods that are particularly good for the sort of stress that we're all in, or particularly bad for all the added duress that we're under?
All the best eating plans can certainly be derailed by stress. And as I tell my clients all the time, you know, you can have these goals, you know, to eat healthy, to exercise, but you can always plan on life gets in the way. It just always does. So having a backup plan is a good idea. But just eating healthy in general, you know, using this plate method, making sure you don't skip meals, you have that carbohydrate for energy, the protein to make it last longer. When you fuel yourself well, you handle stress better. So if you can practice that on a regular basis, have that meal pattern, then that's going to help you to fight that stress. So typically it's, you know, we might eat emotionally when we're stressed. And, you know, nobody I know of overeats apples when they're stressed, right? You know, it's, we usually are in one or two ballparks, you know, it's either sweets and chocolate, you know, all the, that, or you're on the other end, you love your chips and French fries, you know, the salty or crunchy. So, you know, if just eating healthy, if you know that sweets are an issue for you, I really recommend that you take a look at your fruit intake and make sure you're getting at least 2 to 3 servings of fruit a day, because if you get enough fruit, then a lot of times that can help with the sweet cravings. as well as just having the balance. Or if it's, your crunchy foods, well, what kind of healthy crunchy foods can you, keep at home ready to have? That's, having, hummus and raw veggies, or maybe you like crunchy chickpeas, where you can roast those, and that would be a nice crunchy snack. Or, just having those things on hand, but then also to realize, well, is eating really going to solve my stress level? Think of non-eating ways that that you can deal with your stress. So I think that's something that we learn as young kids, when we're rewarded with food. So that's one way, I think, to help your kids to live a healthier lifestyle, is not reward them with, sweets and treats. It's certainly okay to have them as part of your eating, but when we make it a reward, that sets us up for failure as an adult. Like you said, when we are stressed, that's what we want, is whatever we were rewarded with. It's a learned behavior, instead of, oh, maybe I should pray about this stress, because that could definitely give you more peace than, some chocolate cookies will. Although it may help, a few minutes, but then we usually have that, guilty, and then the physical, issues that come along with that. Or like you mentioned that you were walking at lunch, great stress reliever is to just get out and move, whether that's getting outside for a walk, or strength training, or getting out playing with your kids, and having some fun and taking the focus off your stress.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is absolutely wonderful advice that you're giving us. Is there, we'll probably wrap up in a little bit. Is there any other final parting guidance that you'd like to share?
I just want to give you some more resources. I know I've referred to some websites, so I'll just put those. Well, let's see. Before we go to that, I guess I'll share with you one more thing about just prepping of cooking once and eating 3 times. So this is just one idea. I'll go over this one real quick. Meal 1, you decide to bake some chicken. Don't just bake the chicken that you're planning for your family that night. Make extra. It's not going to take you any more time to cook 8 chicken breasts instead of 4. Mm-hmm. Or you put that in the crock pot. That's one of the things that I like to do, is buy a big family pack of chicken and put that in the crock pot with some onions and some cumin and chili powder, and a jar of tomatillo salsa. Ooh. And then we eat that chicken that night, and then I'll make enchiladas for another night, and then white chicken chili another night. Or like the example that you see on the screen, you have your brown rice and steamed broccoli, the meal one night. Maybe you have chicken burrito bowls, so you can do your own, chipotle or whatever. Or if you're in a hurry one night, stop at the store and get a rotisserie chicken. You can do the same thing, and then just open a can of black or pinto beans, have some lettuce, tomatoes, maybe saute some peppers. That can be one way for a really quick and easy meal. Or with that leftover chicken, you can always do, chicken salads, chicken tacos, lots of different things that you can do to, so where you're not cooking every night and having that pandemic meal fatigue, because it is real. As a dietitian, and I love to cook, I've experienced that with this. So that's where I think it, maybe take some creative. And if you do have kids at home, they can be really creative, and really, that's why I think involve them in the meal planning, maybe use that as part of their school. Let's look at another culture and what are some of the foods that they eat, and trying some different things. But, any way that you can figure out, okay, how can I, make some chicken or a pork tenderloin or ground turkey breast and get more than one meal out of it, is really helpful. And then so we can wrap it up by looking at these websites that would be some good resources for people to check out, that they can get good nutrition information. And that is one thing as a dietitian that, just want to caution people about is there's a lot of nutrition misinformation online. Anybody can post a website. Usually you will find people trying to sell something that is given, false advice. So it's a good idea to, to avoid those if you're looking for good, solid nutrition advice. So all of these listed, fit that bill. It's good evidence-based medicine, but also can give you some very user-friendly, easy ideas to incorporate into your lifestyle. The Choosemyplate I've already referred to, but the Eating Well is one of my favorites, eatingwell.com, and they have different what they call healthy eating centers. So if you have diabetes, or if you have to be gluten-free, if you have, heart issues, cholesterol, high blood pressure, then you can go under, click that and it will give you recipes or meal plans based on what you've chosen. So that's a really cool website where you can get a lot of good information. And I recommend that you don't, some of them have, 7-day, 14-day eating plans. Well, we usually set ourselves up for failure when we decide to redo everything, because you're going to go to your pantry and your refrigerator and say, well, I don't have half of this stuff. And then you go to the grocery store and buy it all. And, it costs too much to eat healthy. Well, it does if you do it that way. But so I recommend, pick 1 or 2 new recipes a week that you want to try, so you don't break the bank, and, look at your pantry, see what you have. That's another term that you can search is, you've got some zucchini and some pork tenderloin. You don't know what to do with it. Well, you can put in those 2 search terms and, come up with an idea on how you can use your pork tenderloin and your zucchini.
That's real help.
Yeah. And then that last one, the Iowa State Extension, and a lot of other state extension offices have that too. This one just tends to be the one that has is really user friendly, has a lot of information to really help you with eating on a budget. And so you can get a lot of good ideas from that on, how to stretch your dollar.
Okay, well, my goodness, this has just been an absolute fountain of information, and it's just so helpful and so practical.
Well, you're welcome. I could talk forever, and I probably, I get going, and it's just a passion that I have, and really hope that I've given a few tips that can be helpful to some people as well.
Well, I really appreciate it, and I know everyone watching or tuning in now or later will also really enjoy this. So I am going to wrap things up. Lisa,
All right.
if you have any parting words, now is the time. But it's just been.
I would just think, I know I have shared a lot of information, and it can be overwhelming. But just remember, at the top, we talked about, those small baby steps that can have a huge impact. So even if weight loss is your goal, don't just focus on that. Focus on the healthy behaviors that you can make on a daily basis. So, because it all adds up eventually, so just, decide today, what is something healthy I can do today, without being so overwhelming, and go ahead and take that first step.
Excellent parting words. Well, thank you again, Lisa, and thank you to everyone who's been watching, and we look forward to seeing you the next time. So have a good evening. Bye-bye.